Worry has a quiet way of slipping into the human heart. It does not always arrive loudly or suddenly. Often it begins as a small thought in the early hours of the morning, a question without an answer, a fear without a clear shape. Before we realize it, that small thought grows into a heavy burden we carry through the day. Many people live this way, smiling on the outside while wrestling with anxiety on the inside. Yet God never designed the human heart to be a home for constant worry. He created us to live in trust. From the very beginning, God has invited His people to rely on Him rather than themselves. Worry is the result of trying to control what was never meant to be in our control. We worry because we believe everything depends on us, our strength, our planning, our effort. But trust begins when we recognize a simple truth: we are not God, and we were never meant to be. The need for control is deeply rooted in fear. We fear losing what we love, we fear failure, we fear the unknown, and so we hold tightly to our plans, our timelines, and our expectations, believing that if we grip them hard enough, nothing will fall apart. But the tighter we hold, the heavier the burden becomes. Control promises security, but it delivers exhaustion. Trust, on the other hand, feels risky to the human mind. It asks us to release what we can see into the hands of the one we cannot. It requires humility, faith, and surrender, yet it is only in surrender that true peace is found. Trust is not passive resignation. It is an active decision to place our lives into God's care, believing He knows what we need better than we do. Many people think that if they surrender control, everything will fall apart. But the opposite is true. It is when we surrender that things finally fall into place. God has never asked us to carry the weight of tomorrow. He asks us to walk faithfully today. Worry drags tomorrow's fears into today's strength, and today's strength was never meant to handle tomorrow's load. When we surrender control, we are not giving up responsibility, we are giving up anxiety. We still work, we still plan, we still take steps forward, but we do so with a peaceful heart. We move forward trusting that God is guiding each step, even when the path is unclear. Consider how often worry accomplishes nothing but harm. It does not add wisdom, it does not create solutions, it only drains energy and steals joy. Worry keeps the mind restless and the heart unsettled. Trust, however, brings rest to the soul. It quiets the noise within and reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. God does not promise a life without problems, but He does promise His presence in every situation. Trust does not remove challenges, but it changes how we face them. When we trust God, problems no longer define us or defeat us. They become opportunities to witness His faithfulness. Surrendering control means acknowledging that God sees the full picture while we see only a fragment. We see today, He sees eternity. We see obstacles, He sees purpose. We see delays, He sees preparation. What we interpret as setbacks may actually be setups for something greater than we imagined. Many hearts are heavy because they are trying to solve problems that require divine intervention. Some burdens are simply too large for human hands. God never intended for you to fix everything. He invites you to trust Him with what you cannot fix. When we surrender control, we stop fighting battles we were never meant to fight alone. Trust grows over time. It deepens as we look back and remember how God has carried us before. Every answered prayer, every unexpected provision, every moment of strength in weakness becomes a testimony that builds confidence in Him. If God has been faithful in the past, He will be faithful again. Worry often comes from forgetting who God is. When we lose sight of His power, we magnify our problems. But when we focus on God's greatness, our problems shrink in comparison. Trust reminds us that nothing is too difficult for Him, not our finances, not our health, not our future. Surrender is not a one-time act, it is a daily choice. Each morning, we decide whether we will carry our worries or place them into God's hands. Each moment of anxiety becomes an invitation to trust. Each fear becomes an opportunity to pray. Prayer is the language of surrender. When we pray, we are admitting that we need God. We are declaring our dependence on Him. Prayer does not always change circumstances immediately, but it always changes the heart of the one who prays. It replaces panic with peace and fear with faith. When we surrender control, we learn to live one day at a time. We stop replaying the past and stop rehearsing future disasters that may never happen. We become present in the moment, grateful for what we have, and hopeful for what God will do. Trusting God also requires patience. Sometimes God works quietly and slowly, shaping us more than our situation. Waiting does not mean God is inactive. It means He is working in ways we cannot see. Trust believes that even in silence, God is still moving. There are moments when surrender feels difficult, when prayers seem unanswered, when circumstances worsen, when hope feels distant. In those moments, trust becomes a choice rather than a feeling. Faith is believing even when understanding is absent. Surrendering control does not make us weak. It makes us strong. It frees us from the pressure of perfection and the fear of failure. It allows us to rest in the assurance that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. A surrendered life is a peaceful life, not because everything is easy, but because the heart is anchored. The storms may rage, but the soul remains steady. Trust is the anchor that keeps us grounded when life feels uncertain. God's plans are always rooted in love. Even when we do not understand them, we can trust His heart. He does not withhold good things from His children. What He delays or denies is always for a reason greater than our limited understanding. When we surrender control, we open ourselves to God's guidance. We become sensitive to His direction, attentive to His voice, and willing to follow where He leads. Trust allows God to direct our steps instead of us forcing our own path. Many people spend their lives exhausted not from doing too much, but from worrying too much. Surrender invites rest. It invites peace. It invites us to lay down burdens we were never meant to carry. Trusting God transforms how we view life. We begin to see challenges as temporary and God's promises as eternal. We stop asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" and start believing, "What if God is working everything together for good?" Surrender does not mean we stop caring. It means we stop fearing. We still love deeply, work diligently, and hope boldly, but we do so with open hands instead of clenched fists. In surrender, we discover freedom. Freedom from anxiety, freedom from fear, freedom from the constant need to control outcomes. Trust allows us to breathe again, to rest again, to live again. God is trustworthy. He has proven Himself faithful time and time again. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The one who held the universe together is more than capable of holding your life together. As you surrender control, peace will begin to replace worry, not all at once, but gradually, faithfully, beautifully. You will still face challenges, but you will face them with confidence. You will still have questions, but they will no longer steal your peace. Trust is a journey, not a destination. Some days it comes easily, other days it requires effort. But every step toward surrender brings you closer to the peace God desires for you. Let go of the burden you were never meant to carry. Release the fear that keeps you awake at night. Place your life, your future, and your worries into God's hands. He is gentle with what we entrust to Him. When control is surrendered, worry loses its power, and in its place, peace begins to grow. A deep, steady, unshakable peace rooted not in circumstances, but in trust. Peace is something every human heart longs for, yet so few truly experience. People search for it in success, relationships, possessions, and even isolation, but peace continues to feel just out of reach. The reason is simple. Real peace does not come from changing circumstances. It comes from knowing, deep down in the soul, that God is in control. Until that truth settles in the heart, anxiety will always find a way in. Every day we wake up to a world that feels uncertain. News headlines change, economies rise and fall, relationships shift, health can weaken, and plans can suddenly fall apart. In moments like these, the human instinct is to worry. We try to predict outcomes, fix problems before they arrive, and carry burdens we were never meant to hold. Worry becomes our companion, following us from morning to night, but worry has never solved a single problem. It has never added strength, wisdom, or clarity. It only steals peace. God never intended for his children to live burdened by fear. He knew the world would be broken. He knew life would be unpredictable. And that is exactly why he calls us to trust him. Peace is not the result of life being easy. It is the result of faith being strong. When we truly believe that God is in control, fear loses its authority over us. Control is something humans desperately cling to. We want to know what will happen tomorrow. We want guarantees. We want assurance that nothing will go wrong. But the truth is, we have never been in control. Every breath we take is a gift. Every heartbeat is sustained by grace. The illusion of control is what feeds anxiety, because deep down we know how fragile life really is. But when we surrender control to God, we are not giving up. We are resting. Knowing God is in control changes how we see everything. It changes how we face uncertainty. It changes how we respond to hardship. It changes how we handle waiting seasons. When we trust that God is sovereign, we understand that nothing enters our life without passing through his hands first. That truth does not make pain disappear, but it gives pain a purpose. It reminds us that even what we do not understand is still under divine authority. Many people think peace means the absence of trouble. They believe that once problems disappear, peace will arrive, but peace does not work that way. Some of the most peaceful people have walked through the darkest valleys, and some of the most anxious people have everything the world says they should want. Peace is not found in comfort. It is found in confidence. Confidence that God is who he says he is and will do what he has promised. When storms come, and they always do, the question is not whether God is still present. The question is whether we trust him in the storm. God does not abandon his children in difficulty. He does not step aside when life becomes overwhelming. He remains constant when everything else feels unstable. Knowing this allows the heart to remain calm, even when circumstances are chaotic. There are moments when prayers seem unanswered, when doors remain closed, and when waiting becomes painful. In those moments, peace can feel impossible. But peace is not built on immediate answers. It is built on eternal truth. God sees what we cannot see. He knows what we do not know. He understands how every moment fits into a greater plan. When we accept that his wisdom is greater than ours, we no longer need to panic when things do not make sense. Fear grows when we focus on what might happen. Peace grows when we focus on who God is. Fear asks, what if everything goes wrong? Faith answers, even if it does, God will still be faithful. This does not mean life will be free from pain, but it means pain will never have the final word. God's control is not cold or distant. It is personal and loving. He is not a ruler who watches from afar. He is a father who walks closely with his children. He knows your fears. He sees your struggles. He understands the weight you carry in silence, and he invites you to bring that weight to him, not because he is unaware, but because he cares. So many people are exhausted, not from physical labor, but from emotional and spiritual strain. They are tired of worrying, tired of trying to hold everything together, tired of feeling like one mistake could ruin everything. God never asked you to carry the world on your shoulders. He asks you to trust the one who already does. Peace enters the heart when we stop asking God to explain everything and start trusting him with everything. Some answers will not come immediately. Some questions will remain unanswered this side of eternity. But peace does not depend on explanations. It depends on trust. And trust grows when we remember God's faithfulness in the past. Look back at your life. There were moments you thought you would not survive, situations that felt impossible, seasons filled with uncertainty and fear, yet here you are, not because you were strong enough, but because God was faithful enough. The same God who carried you through those moments is still with you today. He has not changed. His power has not weakened. His love has not faded. When anxiety rises, it is often because we are imagining a future without God in it. But there is no future where God is absent. He is already present in tomorrow. He is already at work in what you are worrying about today. Knowing this does not mean you will never feel fear, but it means fear does not have to control you. Peace does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means trusting God even when everything feels uncertain. It means acknowledging the struggle while resting in the promise that God is greater than the struggle. It means walking forward with faith, not because the path is clear, but because God is leading. There is a deep freedom that comes with surrender. Surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It is the strength to say, I cannot do this on my own, but I know the one who can. When we surrender control, we are not losing anything. We are gaining peace. God's control also means that nothing in your life is wasted. Even the painful moments, the delays, the disappointments, and the detours are used for a greater purpose. You may not see how right now, but one day you will look back and realize that God was working even when you could not feel Him. Peace grows when we choose faith daily. It is a decision to trust God again and again, even when emotions fluctuate. Feelings change, circumstances change, but God remains the same. Anchoring your heart in that truth provides stability when everything else feels unstable. Every morning is an invitation to trust God anew. Yesterday's worries do not belong in today. Tomorrow's fears do not need to be carried now. God gives grace for today. When we live one day at a time, trusting God with each step, peace becomes possible. The world will always give reasons to worry. There will always be uncertainty, loss, and challenges. But God offers something greater than certainty. He offers Himself. And when God is enough, peace follows. Peace comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you are not alone, that your life is not random, that your struggles are not meaningless, that your future is secure in God's hands. When that truth settles in your heart, worry begins to loosen its grip. So let your heart rest today, not because life is perfect, but because God is sovereign, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who does. Release the need to control what you cannot change. Place your fears where they belong in God's hands. Peace is not something you chase. It is something you receive when you trust, and the more you trust God's control, the more peace will fill your life. This is not a one-time decision, but a daily surrender, a daily reminder that God is faithful, God is present, and God is in control. And when you truly know that, not just in your mind but in your heart, peace will no longer feel distant. It will become your anchor, your strength, and your constant companion, no matter what the day brings. Prayer is the quiet doorway through which the restless heart finds peace. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, and it does not depend on perfect words, yet it has the power to calm storms that rage within the human soul. Long before the world awakens, before worries line up at the door of your mind, prayer waits, patient, open, inviting you to step into a place where fear loosens its grip and peace begins to breathe again. Many people search for peace in the wrong places. They look for it in success, in money, in relationships, in control. They believe that if everything around them becomes stable, then their hearts will finally be calm. But life has a way of proving that stability is temporary. Circumstances change, people disappoint, plans fall apart, and when peace is built on anything that can be shaken, it will never last. Prayer, however, connects us to the one who never changes. That is why prayer is not an escape from reality, it is an entrance into the deepest truth. When we pray, we are not informing God of what he does not know, we are not convincing him to care, we are aligning our hearts with his presence. Prayer slows us down in a world that demands speed. It pulls us out of the noise and places us into stillness. In that stillness, peace begins its quiet work, not all at once, not always instantly, but faithfully, gently, and deeply. The human heart was not designed to carry the weight of tomorrow. It breaks under the pressure of unanswered questions and imagined disasters. Worry is the mind's attempt to control what it cannot see. It replays fears, magnifies problems, and convinces us that we are alone. Prayer interrupts that cycle. When you pray, you take the burden off your shoulders and place it into hands far stronger than your own. There is a sacred exchange that happens in prayer. You come with anxiety, and you leave with assurance. You arrive with confusion, and you depart with clarity. You begin with fear, and you end with trust. Not because the situation has changed, but because your perspective has. Prayer reminds you that you are not the center of the universe, and that is good news. It means you do not have to hold everything together. Peace is not found in answers, it is found in presence. Many prayers begin with questions, why this happened, when things will change, how it will work out. But often, God responds not with explanations, but with himself. His presence quiets what explanations cannot. His nearness settles what logic cannot solve. In prayer, the heart learns that it is enough to know that God is near. Some people avoid prayer because they believe they must be strong on their own. They think prayer is a sign of weakness, but the truth is, prayer is an act of courage. It takes humility to admit that you need help. It takes faith to believe that God listens. It takes surrender to let go of control. Prayer is not the language of the weak, it is the posture of the wise. A peaceful life does not mean a problem-free life, it means a life anchored in trust. Prayer is where that trust is built. Day by day, moment by moment, prayer teaches the heart to rest. It trains the mind to pause before panicking. It reminds the soul that no matter how heavy the load feels, it was never meant to be carried alone. In prayer, you discover that God is not distant. He is not cold. He is not indifferent. He is attentive to every sigh, every tear, every silent cry you cannot put into words. Sometimes the most powerful prayers are wordless, a whispered help, a quiet "I can't do this anymore," a tear falling in silence. God understands them all. Morning prayer is especially powerful because it sets the tone for the entire day. When you begin your day in prayer, you are declaring that peace is not something you will chase. It is something you will receive. You are choosing trust before trouble arrives. You are anchoring your heart before the waves begin to rise. Prayer does not remove responsibility, but it removes panic. As the day unfolds, challenges will come. Conversations may be difficult, news may be unsettling, unexpected problems may appear, but a heart that has been in prayer is not easily shaken. It remembers where peace comes from. It knows where to return when anxiety tries to take over again. Prayer also teaches patience. In a world that demands immediate results, prayer invites waiting, not passive waiting, but hopeful waiting, waiting that believes God is at work even when nothing seems to be happening. This kind of waiting produces peace because it trusts the process, even when the outcome is unclear. There are moments in life when peace feels impossible, grief is heavy, loss is painful, fear feels overwhelming. In those moments, prayer may not take the pain away, but it will carry you through it. Prayer does not numb the heart, it strengthens it. It gives you the courage to face another day when you feel like you have nothing left. Peace grows when prayer becomes a habit, not just a last resort. Too often, people pray only when they are desperate. But prayer was never meant to be a panic button. It was meant to be a daily conversation. The more you pray, the more familiar peace becomes. The more you listen, the less frantic life feels. Prayer changes how you see yourself. Instead of seeing only your limitations, you begin to see God's sufficiency. Instead of defining yourself by your failures, you learn to rest in grace. Peace flows naturally when shame is replaced with forgiveness and fear is replaced with love. Prayer also changes how you see others. A praying heart becomes softer, more patient, more compassionate. Anger loses its edge. Resentment loosens its hold. Peace grows not only within you, but around you. When you are at peace, you become a source of peace to others. There is a mystery in prayer that cannot be fully explained. You may enter prayer feeling restless and leave without knowing exactly what changed, but something has. Your breathing slows, your thoughts settle. Your heart feels lighter. That is peace at work, quietly reshaping your inner world. Some prayers are answered quickly, others take time. Some answers come in ways you expect, others surprise you, but prayer assures you that no moment spent in God's presence is wasted. Even unanswered prayers shape you, even silent moments strengthen you. Peace grows not because everything makes sense, but because trust does. When worry returns, and it will, prayer becomes the place you return to as well. Peace is not a destination you reach once and never leave. It is a relationship you keep nurturing. Every time anxiety knocks, prayer opens the door to peace again. A peaceful life is not built in one powerful prayer, but in thousands of small ones. A prayer while driving, a prayer before a meeting, a prayer in the middle of the night, a prayer whispered through tears. Each one adds a brick to the foundation of peace within you. In prayer, you learn that God is not asking you to figure everything out. He is asking you to trust Him step by step. Peace comes when you stop demanding certainty and start embracing faith. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you know who holds tomorrow. Prayer teaches the heart to release what it cannot change and to receive the strength to face what it must. That exchange is where peace lives, not in denial, not in escape, but in surrender. A life filled with prayer becomes a life guided by peace. Decisions are made with clarity instead of fear. Challenges are faced with courage instead of panic. Even in the midst of chaos, there is a quiet confidence that says, "I am not alone." This is why prayer is the gateway to a peaceful life, not because it changes everything around you, but because it changes everything within you. It reminds you who you are, who God is, and where your hope truly lies. As long as prayer remains a part of your life, peace will never be out of reach. You may stumble, you may struggle, you may feel overwhelmed. But peace will always be waiting on the other side of prayer, ready to welcome you home.